Hey, what's going on, Noel Nation? It's CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk. Of course, I am your host. FSU is in the middle of completing spring practice. Of course, spring practice has been closed off to the media and general public and things like that. So a lot of things have been rather real close to the vest in regards to Mike Norvell and what they give out this spring and things like that. But listen to a couple of press conferences from Tony White, Gus Malzahn, and of course Mike Norvell, and then some sources here and there that were at practice. Was able to put together a little bit to give you guys a picture of what's been going on at practices and also what went down this past weekend in FSU's first scrimmage. Before we get started, I just want to get this off my chest and kind of, I guess, lead in with this. Listening to Gus Malzahn and listening to Tony White speak, it seems like both coordinator hires have been hits so far and will be hits, of course, once the game actually gets played. A lot of good stuff between the two of those guys. I will say iron sharpens iron. There's been a lot of real battles within offense and defense between the players, the coaches, and things like that. You can just hear them. Hearing both coordinators speak, you could just hear how much they respect each other, how hard it has been to create success on both sides of the ball, which is a good thing. Which is you want in spring practice, you want competitiveness, you want one winning on one rep, one winning the next rep. You want back and forth, right? You want to get that balance because in the perfect world, the best type of practice, the best type of competition that you should have is in practice. So it's good to see, well, good to hear rather, that we have been getting after it at practice, and both coordinators have been rising to the challenge and accepting the challenge along with the players, giving each other different looks and things along those plays. Mike Norvell did state that it was a couple players that won their one-on-one reps. Right? What does that mean? Winning your one-on-one individual battles. Schemes are perfect. Coaches could dial up this scheme or that scheme. A coach could call that player. That player that feel like that will work. But at the end of the day, you have to win your one-on-one battles. And it was good to hear Mike Norvell state that a lot of players have been winning their one-on-one battles and competing in regards to those one-on-one battles. We'll jump right to it. Let's start with the offense first. This was very interesting. Mike Norvell stated that the team had 110 between 110 and 120 plays ran within the scrimmage. A lot of plays, a lot of plays, a lot of work. That was a really big work day. I was kind of shocked by that number, to be honest with you, that we ran so many plays. It kind of reminded me back to my Bethune Cookman days there on that shoulder. This shoulder right here. Shout out to the Wildcats. During spring practice and fall camp, we pretty much ran through 100 plays on a regular, and it's crazy thinking back on it. But we were in so much better shape than our opponents, and won a bunch of games and MEAC championships behind it. To hear that from Mike Norvell and of course Gus Malzahn echoing, that was refreshing for me personally, just to see how much work we actually got in within within the scrimmage day rather. Also, within those 110, 120 plays, also shows me the speed, right? The hurry up speed, the type of offense we will be running. Gus Malzahn is one of those hurry up speed type of go offenses. And ever since Jimbo Fisher left with his pro style, slow, methodical offense, kind of eating on the play clock, we thought we would be getting this hurry up type of offense within these spread offenses, within these coaches we had. Willie Taggart, of course, we thought it was going to be the same. Really wasn't the same. Wasn't a lot of speed within Willie Taggart's offense. Hell, even Mike Norvell, he had offenses that went fast at Memphis and things like that. Real quick, go get to the ball, or get on the ball rather, and snap the ball and get the play going. But at Florida State, we really haven't seen that as well. Even with Mike Norvell calling the plays, we saw it in some instances, but not on a consistent basis in regards to the hurry up and go. With Gus, we're going to see the hurry up and go. I can promise you, I can assure you that it's going to be a lot of hurry up. The team has been practicing that, and just within that, it comes which is very great to hear from Gus. Within the hurry up, it comes you got to have a level of discipline, right? A level of discipline, knowing what you're doing, a level of discipline to get lined up, a level of discipline in knowing the play, running that play, executing it to perfection at high speed. So it seems like Gus has been instilling, drilling, whatever you want to call it, repetition, putting that into the players' hands to where we're doing it over and over and over to where it becomes second nature. So once we get comfortable in a hurry up offense, that will be something to watch. Gus Malzahn did state that the quarterbacks had equal reps within 120 plays, and with the quarterbacks, he's talking about Thomas Castellano, Brock Glenn, and Kevin Sperry, the true freshman. There was a lot of highs and lows. I also want to speak about Thomas Castellano himself. Thomas had a lot of great plays, a lot of great throws, created a lot of plays. Then he had some plays where some throws that you wanted to have back and things like that. Gus talked about getting the consistency out of Thomas. He also stated that he can create a lot of things just with his legs and things like that. He creates a lot of problems for the defense, and he also brings started experience. That's the biggest difference from when Thomas Castellano first enrolled at UCF to what we had to Gus Malzahn reunite with Thomas Castellano at FSU. The biggest, he said, I guess you could say adjustment or rather difference from then and now is just you could tell that Thomas has a lot of starting experience under his belt. Speaking of Kevin Sperry, the true freshman quarterback, he's been really impressive throughout spring practice thus far and carried over to the scrimmage. He's very ahead of the curve per Mike Norvell. Made some freshman mistakes and things like that, but he had a very good command of the offense. Had some plays downfield, some big time plays, some big time touchdowns as well. And Elijah Moore was on the receiver end on a few of those touchdowns. Elijah Moore has been putting together a pretty good spring as well. Gus Malzahn also spoke highly of Luke Pettybaum. As you guys know, the transfer center from Wake Forest has good command of the offense. A veteran center, knows how to operate the show, knows how to get the offensive lineman lined up, make the calls, make the checks, and things like that. Protection slides, whatever it may be. Luke Pettybaum is pretty much the quarterback, the general, so to speak, from the front seven and running the entire show. And that's something we missed last year, well, the last few years, to be quite honest with you, when Maurice Smith was running the show at center. So I do think we did upgrade at the center position. Now, I think I stated prior in previous DoakTalk episodes, I think Luke Pettybaum could be one of the most important gets within the transfer portal for FSU. Just how much the center position, how important the center position is, and how much goes into it. Some of the running backs got active in the scrimmage as well. Sam Singleton, Roydell Williams, and Jalen Lucas. Roydell had a plethora of nice runs as well with Jalen Lucas. And I said this before, a lot of explosive plays, something we missed or lacked within last year once he had a season ending injury rather. But within the few games he played, you saw the explosiveness, you saw the playmaker ability, you saw he could be within the offense. Long story short, I think he's back from injury and not missing a beat. Had a long touchdown run as well. So to get him going is going to be good. It's going to be interesting to see how Gus Malzahn can fit him within the offense and just get his playmakers the ball and, get him in space and things like that. Deuce Robinson had another big day. He's been stacking a bunch of consistent plays throughout spring, had a big pass play within the scrimmage. He's pretty much positioning himself to be receiver one for FSU this upcoming year. I think Deuce Robinson is a high level player. He's going to make a lot of plays for FSU. And all the excitement we had coming out of the transfer from University of Southern California to Florida State, 5-star receiver, one of the best players out of the portal. I think that's starting to not necessarily pay dividends as of now because the games haven't been played yet, but you're starting to see why he was so coveted in high school and so coveted out of the transfer portal. Big body receiver that can make every catch, athletic receiver. Deuce is probably going to be the receiver one for FSU. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the defense and some of the things we heard on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to start off with some of the defensive line, with the defensive line. Deontay McCray, Deontay Diggs. So those are some of the guys that Mike Norvell highlighted as making a lot of plays as far as new guys that transferred over. Also the Desir brothers, those guys that were committed to UCF and Gus Malzahn at one point from Miami, Florida, the twins. Mike Norvell, and this is a direct quote, said those guys have been really good. And he also likes the young group of defensive linemen that FSU has brought in from the high school ranks. So it's good to see those young guys getting after it and making some plays and just showing, their worth in regards to why we recruited them at FSU, the scouting department, things like that, and just getting on campus and making those plays early. From the transfers to the high school kids, it's been some good evaluations thus far. Daryl Jackson, he made a really elite play, a one-on-one play like Norvell stated. Ended up beating the offensive lineman, had a tackle for loss for like 5 yards or so. Tony White is very high on Daryl Jackson, him and Pot Rose rather. Both of those guys have mentioned various times talking to the media that they feel that Daryl Jackson could be the best defensive tackle in the country. So that's saying a lot coming from those guys. to my guys that, pot roast that played at a high level, played with some high caliber defense linemen and coached some high caliber defense linemen along with Tony White as well. So for them to say that, it says a lot in regards to what Daryl Jackson has been doing. We just got to get the consistent factor down, right? Down in and down out. Be the best guy on the field, be the most dominant guy on the field, and don't leave that up for any type of debate. So that's good to hear as well. Elijah Herring, this is a kid that we got from the transfer portal. From Tennessee to Memphis to Florida State now. He led Tennessee in tackles before leaving for Memphis. Was one of the best linebackers on the Memphis team. We saw firsthand last year in playing Memphis. That hasn't stopped one bit in regards to the progression and production, rather, that he's been having so far at FSU. No doubt about it. He's been making his presence felt as far as making plays left and right. This is a direct quote from Tony White. You feel his presence on the grass. He's not really a rah-rah guy, that talks a lot and things like that. But once he gets in this element, as far as within the hash marks and playing football, you feel his presence and he's making a lot of plays. So that's good to hear you. That's what you wanted coming out of the transfer report. That's what you saw within the film of Elijah Herring. So you wanted that as well, and you're starting to get that. Effort plays. Tony White mentioned effort plays, not really giving up on plays, finishing plays to the end. When I say not giving up on plays, live to play another down. Live to play another down. So the offense had an explosive play that was running down the field, could have been a touchdown, but Elijah Herring, speaking of this kid, right? Elijah Herring ended up making a hustle play to stop the runner from scoring and making scoring and getting into the touchdown. So we live to fight another down. Next play, we end up getting an interception made by Earl Little. So that's the type of plays you want as far as effort plays. And Tony White did point this out, and I was thinking this as well. That's a teaching moment. That's something you want to highlight when you review the film. This is what happens when you hustle. This is what happens when you run to the ball. This is what happens when you don't quit on the play. Good things happen. Just because it looks like a touchdown, looks like a big play, this, that, and third, you still finish, you fight to the next play, and sure enough, they did, and the next play resulted in an interception. Give you a chance to make another play. That's exactly what Elijah Herring did, and of course, Earl Little made the best of it by getting an interception. And speaking of Earl Little, Tony White has a lot of praise from him as well, making a lot of plays throughout spring practice, leading up to the scrimmage. He's pretty much stated Earl Little is him. Earl Little Jr. is him. Direct quote from Tony White. That's how I praise. You guys know when someone calls someone him, that means shit. Quite literally, they are him. They're making all the plays. They are the guy. They're that person is the guy. So Earl Little's been making a lot of big hits, a lot of big plays, and it's carrying over. He's being consistent. You guys remember he did struggle a little bit last year, but the tail end of the season ended up moving him to safety. He felt really comfortable at the safety position. He was making a lot of plays for FSU. Hopefully it seems like it's transitioning over from last season to the spring. Hopefully that continues to transition, continues to get developed, and continues to get better. And we see that for this upcoming fall. Jabril Rawls, he's a kid that's been making a lot of noise, a lot of plays in spring practice. We've been kind of very high on him and the potential of the defensive back room in general with the size, length, and athleticism that those guys have. But Tony White mentioned him staying consistent, right? Him staying high. When I say staying high, staying confident. Of course, it's an analogy that defensive backs use, and not just it shouldn't just be defensive backs, but it's used within the defensive back room. But in football in general, you want to have next play mentality. You want to have short-term memory. What happened last play doesn't matter. I said it to say this. Jabril Ross could give up a play, and it's good on good. You're going to have some good, like I told you, Deuce Robinson's making hell of a plays. FSU has scholarship-worthy receivers as well, so players are going to get made on you. But you got to go to the next play and the next play and stay consistent. Don't let that one play get you down to where it's affecting your play for the rest of the practice. And that's something that Tony White is trying to instill in the defensive backs, and also kind of alluded to some of the issues we had last year in regards to how much talent we had, but not being consistently locked in play after play. So that's something we're trying to instill within Jabril Rawls, and just not with Jabril Rawls, but the entire secondary. But he did state that he's an NFL caliber defensive back. Now he has to be consistent and play like an NFL caliber defensive back. And also he stated that making plays and feeling confident is contagious and it rubs off on the others. Once everybody makes plays and feel confident, you play faster, you communicate better, and you just make more plays overall. Stated that if Earl Little is making plays and doing well, Jabril Rawls is making plays and doing well. And once Quintarius Jones sees Jabril making plays and doing well, he's doing the same thing. So you have a trickle down effect throughout the entire secondary. So if we can get on board the secondary, being confident in making plays, because it's a lot of talent within that secondary room, then we can be very scary as a defense. And also, this is something that stood out as well too, in regards to Tony White talking about the challenges that Gus Malzahn presents. He stated that it's clear that he wants to have identity on the side on the side of the ball, and that's to be physical and establish the run. Physical and establish the run. We talk about spread offenses and gadget offenses and things like that, but don't get this shit confused. Excuse my language, but Gus Malzahn, he has a punch you in the mouth type of mindset. He wants to dominate the line of scrimmage. He wants to establish the run. That goes back to his Auburn days. That goes back to his UCF days. They had three, I want to say top, I forget the number exactly, but I told you guys, I think it was the last 3 years they've been top 15 to three top 15, top 15 and top rushing attack has been top 10 within the last 3 years or so. So that's not going to tell off for FSU. Want to establish the run, establish the line of scrimmage, establish a physical a physical mindset on both offense and defense. Last thing before I get up out of here, Mike Norvell did state that he was pretty much in the middle of the field observing everything, with Gus Malzahn, the offensive coordinator, having full control of offense, full control of calling all of the plays. Mike was able to evaluate offense and defense from a neutral standpoint in the middle of the field and pretty much evaluate the entire program versus being completely locked in on offense. Once those guys get in the field room and start, evaluating further, once you get a better picture, then you can start seeing the adjustments we'll make. But overall, I'm like what I'm hearing from the coaches as far as how spring practice is progressing, the players as well. You got to keep at it, stay consistent. There's a lot more work to be done because this is just the beginning. This is the appetizer, so to speak. You got to get in the full course meal, dessert, and all that type of deal, leading up into the rest of spring practice, summer, and of course fall camp. Get ready for game 1 against Bama. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. Again, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Join the DoakTalk community if you haven't already. We'll have more quick hitters from you guys coming soon. Go Noles.